what.
How'd you know that?
Oh, no. That's Carl
They were just
hired
ordered.
people
It's
to
going
do
to take a
that.
week. There's no way to get them up. But you can't, like I said, I have no idea.
I tell you what's,
It's taken us with Mike like about 10 days to do
when,
1,500.
I'm thinking I've got about
when I ran the first time,
80 of them.
Butch called me once and
And
said,
then we're
All right.
we have a truce?
Do we have anyone for invocation
He
tonight?
said,
supposed to be Jan Hall, but she...
I'll tell
So...
Cheryl's people to stop taking your signs down.
Who is, you want to do a short prayer?
I did it last time, dude.
Next.
Ann,
You have an encore.
What to do?
It was good.
you like to do it, Ann?
Short and sweet.
Not really.
Or who goes
To my left, hey, you got the heavy hitter right next to me.
Right,
Hey, it's
Got the reliever, got the lefty. The lefty from the bullpen,
And the
man.
gym, it goes...
under special,
And Dieter says, and the prayer will be given by,
under special business, Jerry Hathaway wanted to speak and welcome Councilmember Rouse on being appointed to the Commission for the Architectural Review Board for Ignition Park. So she will,
I want you to know, I lobbied for that, Reverend, so you get that.
yes.
Thanks a lot, Dave, you're so,
And you're going to swear in Murray
And who?
Miller. Murray Miller.
Murray Miller?
To Tim CED.
Murray Miller,
Citizen member, CED.
CED, Roger. 7510 is continued to 4/11. 8610 is continued to 4/11. 7/11, Public Works Property Vacation, already a substitute, and that is,
Without recommendation.
No, no rec.
So we don't have to do it during the meeting, 7:11. So,
No, it's already accepted.
8/11, Personnel and Finance,
Favorable.
thank you. 9/11, Parks.
favorable.
And the resolutions, 1119, Z and A.
Favorable.
1120 out of Z and A.
All four of them favorable.
Thank you. First reading, 1111 goes to CED for 4/11. 1211 goes to ZNA for 4/11. 1311 goes to area plan. And then unfinished business, zoning appeals, that goes also.
ABC.
CNA for 411.
Yeah. Hey, when do you work tomorrow?
Yes, I do.
Do you have time to come to our new place and show me where I should put smoke alarms?
In the city. No, we do that all the time. I go to people's houses and put them up.
Are they free?
Did you say the petitioner wanted to put the 2,500?
I think we thought that, Gary came up after
Okay.
and suggested that it be approved perhaps on a contingency. I think he was going to make their,
Okay.
I recommended to Gary when we were walking out of the
Okay.
building that perhaps part of the presentation is a compromise, that the administration would offer that. And he didn't say no, but he also had to talk to the mayor, yeah. Thank you.
Discounted lots for council members? Is that what you said?
they're all sold. They're all sold.
Hey, my taxes were like $22,000. Is that possible?
Your AV went up.
Yeah, yours is.
Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
net assessed value
Not
is
my
went up.
taxes. You're right.
Those
If you want to we'd be glad to receive it.
No, that's.
No, it's not the bills, it's the notice of reassessment came. You know, I don't think I've seen one. I got, over the last 6 weeks, I got two. There you go. Okay. Since we've had this condominium and booming heritage down there, every year I've got a notice of assessment. Sometimes it goes up, sometimes it goes down. And it's exactly the form that we're getting now, so we could have done that.
How'd your taxes stay on that, pretty consistent, or did they bounce around?
It's been and quite honestly,
If you don't mind, what's the total assessment?
when I bought this land,
66 or
I
something.
did a few years ago, that next year, my assessment was my sales. tax.
Exactly.
11,000 for me.
Forget all the other shit. Doesn't make any difference.
But
It's a
mine
sales
was
price.
20.
Then you leave everything else, you know, within those
I know it
constraints.
wasn't much to begin with, but.
And the gaps begin to narrow
20.
because the sales prices aren't that. Every
no,
every
that's not
condominium in this complex is essentially the same thing, that got $10,000 worth of difference in it. So you shouldn't see $10,000 worth of difference. So, those
I have felt fortunate that I
about
did have.
Since the 60s.
Oh, yeah, Rosemary showed me some maps of disaster. You go to Twickenham Hills, some of these houses, a house on 8th Street was assessed as though we're in another neighborhood.
Statute of limitations.
That's the way they were doing.
Just doing business.
People think it's me.
We can't, when you get all done at the end of the day, you can't draw any substantive conclusions out of it except that it's too random. There's too much randomness to it.
That occurred in my neighborhood, Dave, during that whole 2003 year, where, you know, one neighbor's house, the ones that had been more recently sold, suffered the most. They were yanked higher.
What his reasoning
And
was and
were
what he.
assessed much
And
higher.
what trending does is it takes all the sales in a neighborhood and calculates an average value per square foot.
Right.
Everybody in the neighborhood gets, my dad's place in Florida,
Yeah,
every year he gets a new
and I
assessment.
really did want to know.
And they show you the sales in the building. It's 32 units.
Yeah.
So one or two sell every year. They base your assessment going forward on sales. His went
I
from,
won't have that.
Yeah, they started 7.
his went from almost $500,000
Girls' place now.
plus $200,000.
Oh, well, I'd rather hear speech than the girls, I admit.
Florida's
I
ever
care, I hope they win.
It's an older unit as opposed to a brand new one. It's across the street from the beach.
Well,
All these things
voted for the guy, too.
have drawn down to that. Plus, there's not enough people buying them. And that's
A lot
what,
of
once in
people
his
were
unit,
disappointed
are selling
when
for. So he had,
you know, went into another situation.
20 years ago, and I
And,
tried to
but
get
I'm sure he had good,
Okay?
you know, good stuff behind it. and I'd like
At
to
one
know
point in
what it
time,
is.
units were selling for, same units, because this is 32
Oh,
units.
always we, I mean, in that case.
We're selling for almost $500,000. And you can check. If you go check it.
And people
So,
expect.
Oh, yeah, you check the sales records. It's there. It's online. Just go look it up.
Arlington.
I'm encouraged.
It's our financial and records in this county, they're still 18 or 1960 style.
Form 11.
The only difference is you get the
You can't say that.
1860s work put on computer, scanned in, and you can see the document.
You should at least have 1 or 2 meetings and
Those maps were a disaster.
and maybe pull together all the neighborhood
Yeah.
associations and pull them together.
I looked-
At least if they would be in a position to go and.
I looked at Twickenham Hills just because I could relate to it.
Oh, the neighborhood
You
association.
pull all of them
I
together.
may have all that.
It's all on
yeah,
the
you know,
computer
put them all
now.
together,
It's not
at least
I mean, I saw
they
the
have
old maps you guys used to have where there'd been a sale
The
and
question
someone
is,
put a circle around it, draw a line up here and put the price down, the date and all that stuff. But there was,
Or were they in the city? Remember they,
There were,
some
like,
many
Twickenham
were
Hills.
decreased, some
on-
they increased.
at least one house on every street
Those that increased,
was
were they in
colored
the
differently
or were they in the
on this
city?
map or lot.
What's that
I said,
percentage
so what's
that
this? She
makes a
says, well, it was determined that that house
Doesn't
would
make
really
a
be better
difference.
assessed
But
as
fear
though we're in a
that
different
it's-
neighborhood.
Mine increased.
I said, what's the neighborhood? She says, I can't tell you, but it's
My neighbor
70213.
called me in a panic and
said,
hers
"This'll make
only
people
went up
crazy."
$2,000.
You can't pull a house out of a neighborhood and assess it.
So that's the issue.
The whole purpose of that new system was to take the septic
No,
company out of
further
it.
down.
Out of it.
At this point, I don't feel
I'm guessing D, 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 R, D, D.
I would do that.
They just had this feeling getting them to the
But if that gets showed up in court, if that map
As far
showed
as
up
I
in
know, you
court,
are.
they
Jefferson,
Oh, they throw the whole
I
thing
didn't
out.
know the word.
If I was a judge, I'd
Is
take the lowest value and say,
from-
this is the value
from
we're going to
whence
use.
they
at the highest
began
value.
to
And
assess
I'm sure the ones that are by themselves are
has
higher
something to do
value.
with
Did
they
you ever
fit
see the
together
maps
in
I
a certain
made?
way.
She called a,
Because I was the original one
trying to
who
explain it, but I
determined
Just-
neighborhoods to begin with. We got a directive from the state tax board to
I'd say once it starts out,
create neighborhoods based on certain criteria. And at that point, we didn't
in
know
very
for
short
sure
areas.
how it would be utilized. Let's go ahead and do it. So I,
If you go to the neighborhood.
Well, that land,
couldn't set mine.
that land use commission that was created in,
Our short track.
You have
In
45 days.
no, it would have been 1990. No, it was the 2000 land use commission. I got a call. This is, yeah, it's 12 years down the road. I got a call from Jocelyn Pollock.
I don't know how you.
You know her very well?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
And she was sitting there.
So what are they basing that on?
And she said,
Well, I
not the
did-
public meetings, behind the scenes, we would be, and she's in real estate. She said, this belongs here, this neighborhood really don't like that. And people would say, but so-and-so lives right there.
But it was him
So we don't want
Back
in that neighborhood.
Yeah, state statute.
And which is how, do you remember when Mike Barnes' house
By state statute, but how we share the
went
information.
back, do you remember that story? In Center Township, Mike Barnes lives on a cul-de-sac in,
There, right now, we have
Farthest one.
2010 payable,
No.
2011. Is that what?
I know
it's the one, it's on, it backs up to Kern Road. And about 15 years ago, someone pointed out that Mike Barnes' house in the middle of the subdivision was in the
Well, I
county.
did, yes, I did.
In the middle of the subdivision in South Bend, Indiana.
Wasn't paying city taxes.
No, he's paying county taxes. And it wasn't even a square lot, and so you're coming down Kern Road like this.
You can do it on the weekend.
Kern Road.
No, we had them put
It goes
in.
along for 5 miles, Kern Road. And then it does this.
Then you ask him, he's gonna put that sign in your front yard saying brand new windows.
Yeah.
That turned out to be Mike Barnes' house. It was a mistake.
How'd that ever happen?
It was a mistake, you know. Someone, and when you're drawing this, you know,
Nobody ever gets
the survey had to say to a point here, thence northwest, then, yeah, and it had to, so, it couldn't have been a mistake. Someone had to.
Was he on Kern Road?
No, he was on the cul-de-sac.
Oh, he was on the road.
Irish today.
Luckily, he doesn't give any scholarships.
Well, give grants and aid.
Tennessee.
I know, I did that for now, but they don't give scholarships.
Who doesn't?
We get your vote if I don't make a presentation an hour and a half long
Oh,
on,
please don't, please don't.
I want to hear Obama. Because I don't know, no. Wait, 7:30, I'm sorry, you're right, I'm sorry.
If this is
You're right, it wasn't 8 like it usually is.
The Monday, March 28, 2011 South Bend Common Council is now in session. All rise for the invocation by the Reverend Councilmember Timothy A. Rouse.
Let us pray. Eternal Father, as we come now, we come thanking you for all that you've already done this day and brought us thus far along the way. We pray, God, that you would have your way in this place tonight and lead and guide us with your presence, that we would make decisions that are in the best interest of this city and glorifying in thy sight. Father, we ask and pray it for thy love's sake. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Bordy, read the roll. You have a minute. Mr. Henry Davis.
Henry's here.
Mr. LaFountain.
Here.
Mrs. Puzzella.
Present.
Dr. Varna.
Present.
Vice President Oliver Davis.
Present.
Mr. Kursitz.
Present.
Councilmember Rouse.
Present.
Councilmember White.
Present.
President Dieter. Present, Mr. Vorty. 9 present. Thank you. Can I have a report from the subcommittee on minutes? To the Common Council of the City of South Bend, the subcommittee has inspected the minutes of the March 14th, 2011 meeting of the council and found them to be correct. Therefore, we recommend the same be approved. Signed, Derek Dieter, David Varner.
Move the minutes be accepted as
Second.
read.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Those in opposition, thank you. Under special business, I'd like to call Jerry Hathaway up to the microphone. You need your name and address for the record, and go right ahead.
Jerry Hathaway, 601 Park Avenue, South Bend. Thank you for this opportunity to be here. As the director of Ignition Park and the chairman of the Architectural Review Board for Ignition Park, I want to personally and for that organization welcome Timothy Rouse, councilman, to our board. We welcome you as the representative for this council. It's a 5-member board. 2 positions are position-specific, and that is the executive director of Community and Economic Development, the director of Ignition Park, 2 appointees by the Redevelopment Commission, and then 1 position appointed by this council. Welcome, and we're going to put you to work very soon.
Well, thank you, Ms.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Vorty, you have a swearing in of a citizen member for the CED committee. Mr. Miller.
I, Murray Miller,
Do solemnly swear I will support the Constitution of the United States
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Indiana,
and the Constitution of the State of Indiana.
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
I will faithfully discharge the duties
of a citizen member
of a citizen member
of the Community and Economic Development Committee.
of the Community and Economic Development Committee.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Now you can vote.
Good job, buddy. Any report from city offices?
Point of order, Councilman Dieter, President Dieter. Just want to ask you with the policies or procedures as it is, with report of city offices. We had a report designated or scheduled last time for code enforcement, and I think Catherine got sick or was ill. And as this is the next council meeting, should we reschedule those for the next coming council meeting?
Yeah, she is off today on a vacation day, so we will have her here in 2 weeks.
So the policy and procedures as it relates to city offices, once one schedules doesn't show up or can't show up, the next council meetings will be scheduled automatically for that particular report? Okay.
Can I have a motion to resolve in the committee of the whole?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition to that?
Committee of the Whole is now in session. This is the portion of the council meeting where we come together as a committee, the entire council. Standing committees will make their report, and then we shall hear from the petitioners on the various bills that are presented tonight. Mr. Vorty, would you please read?
That's not
Sorry.
necessary. Councilmember Rouse, motion to continue Bill 7510 to April 11th.
So moved.
Second.
Heard the motion and the second to continue Bill 7510 to April the 11th. All in favor, so indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, the motion carries.
A motion carry, continue 8610 to 41111.
Second.
You've heard the motion and the second to continue 8610 to 411. All in favor, so indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, the motion carries. Mr. Vorty, would you please read substitute Bill 0711?
Public hearing on a bill of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, appropriating the sum of $2 million from the Major Moves Fund at number 412 and the sum of $400,000 from the Sewage Works Capital Fund at number 642 for total appropriation of $2,400,000 for the purpose of infrastructure construction at the Triangle Property Project site.
I would like to make a motion here, the substitute.
We have already accepted.
Great, okay.
Is there a committee report?
Yes, Mr. President, there is the Public Works and Property Vacation Committee had a public hearing on 711, Bill 711 today, and it comes to the full council with no recommendation.
Thank you, Dr. Varner. Is there a petitioner present? Please give your name and address.
My name is Greg Zentera. I'm controller of the City of South Bend. Business address is the 12th floor of the County City Building. Bill 07-11 in its original version was submitted to Council for consideration on February 23rd, 2011. The bill that is before you tonight is a first substitute. The substitution was brought forth to amend certain language that was omitted from the original filing. The omitted language is contained in Section 3 of the substitute bill, whereby, and I quote, "Monies appropriated within this ordinance from Major Moves Fund 412 will be repaid from TIF Northeast Residential Fund 436 to the Major Moves Fund 412, beginning in fiscal 2012 with a principal and interest payment commencing August 15th, 2014 and ending February 15th, 2029. Interest will accrue from the date of appropriation." This language is added to the bill, will ensure that the desired infrastructure improvements are paid for by TIF financing and to secure repayment from the TIF district to the Major Moves Fund. That concludes my presentation. If council members have questions, I would attempt to answer those. And also we have members from other members from City Administration. Mr. Gillott is present to make presentation as required.
All right, Mrs. Zentera. Anyone have a question of Mrs. Zentera before we go to Mr. Gillott?
Just one. Absent, if there's not a separate agreement defining this, what's the interest rate that we impute?
Interest rate is 2%.
That's fixed throughout the term?
Yes.
Anyone else? Mrs. Zentera?
Yes, I have a couple of questions.
Yes, go ahead, Mr.
Now, am I right that this is actually, we had passed an ordinance back in January 2008 appropriating funds for this project?
That's correct.
Okay. And also, I note that in the cover letter, it says that there were project delays because of problems in acquisitions.
That's correct.
Okay. And that because of those problems, what we had appropriated expired. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, what you're doing, asking us today is just go back and redo what we've already done, essentially. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. That's all I want to know.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions of Mr. Zentera? Seeing none, hearing none. Mr. Gillott, would you come and state your name and address?
Yes. Gary Gillott, Public Works Director. My offices are on the 13th floor of this building. Earlier at your committee meeting, I provided a plan that shows the Triangle subdivision. It's labeled Eddie Knowles, but we're working with the name The Triangle, as it's been referred to for a number of years. The plan is to change the street alignment somewhat for Georgiana, Dewey, and Burns, to not make it all the way to State Road 23. Only Dewey will come out opposite Talbot Street as an entrance off of 23. There'll be connections to Eddy Street via St. Vincent, and there'll be connections for the street grid. These three streets will mesh into Napoleon as the east-west traffic carrier on the north side. The lots that are abutting to State Road 23, where there will be a forecast future traffic, design traffic of 28,000 vehicles per day, will have a landscape berm to buffer the residential subdivision from the traffic. We have designs for the road, the curbs, the sidewalks, the water and sewer and drainage ready to go. We're looking to go to bid on this. There has been a lot of right-of-way acquisition over the last several years. We are down to 2 parcels that impact the public right-of-way that are in the eminent domain process. From our earlier discussion, I'm interested in proposing a friendly amendment in furtherance of that discussion. I'm suggesting council attorney would recommend a section number. The Common Council appropriates these funds contingent on the administration not awarding construction contracts until there is firm evidence of demand for lots to build housing in the Triangle subdivision. This evidence of demand shall be met when 25 lots are held by 25% deposits on the value of the lots. It is understood these are refundable deposits if the project does not go forward. I'd recommend that language perhaps as satisfying the earlier discussion.
All right, Mr. Gilat, thank you, sir. Is there any questions of Mr. Gilat? Sure. Council members?
Sure. Yes.
Okay, Mr. Davis and then Mr. Davis.
From our attorney, what was your thoughts regarding the language that was just shared? I'd like to get your opinion on that, please.
I would recommend amending the bill to include it as new section 4. However, I believe that current section 4 needs to be also amended to be section 5, and then adding at the very end of it, following approval by the mayor, and the words, and upon conditions being met as set forth in section 4. That way we have everything addressed.
Anything else needs to be into that? You're comfortable?
I think that addresses the concerns that were raised by Dr. Barnum at the committee level.
I guess the only question I have, just at the end there, it was satisfied by 25% of the, or 25 lots being under contract with deposits.
Yes. Yes, those are guaranteed deposits. Now, you had brought up the figure of 25 lots. You kind of tossed that out there in 25%. Truthfully, some discussion with staff, there are the low and moderate income ones. We'd love to not count those in the figures. That would drop the number to about 17, but since you had put 25 out, that's the friendly amendment. But if there's any sentiment toward making the hurdle a little lower in recognition that 30% of the lots are low and moderate income, that would be appreciated.
Well, in light of the fact you told us how easy this is going to be, I think we should probably leave it just right where it is. And I wish you all the best luck. I really do. I'm comfortable with it.
Do you want the amendment reread?
That's fine.
Yeah, reread that.
Yes. The new Section 4 will be the Common Council appropriates these funds contingent on the administration not awarding construction contracts until there is firm evidence of demand for lots to build housing in the Triangle subdivision. This evidence of demand shall be met when 25 lots are held by 25% deposits on the value of the lots. It is understood that these are refundable deposits if the project does not go forward.
Thank you, Mr. Vorty.
And new section 5 would read, this ordinance shall be in full force and effect from and after its passage by the Common Council, approval by the mayor, and upon the conditions set forth in section 4 being met.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Farron.
I'm just
Mr. Davis?
Yeah, a point of clarity. Nothing will happen until that particular issue is, I guess, resolved.
Yes.
So we're not breaking ground, no new infrastructure or anything until the 25. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's correct.
All right. Okay. So then, all right, is the Public Works Board going to return back to council at that time, or are they going to immediately start construction?
Gilat, there's a question as far as notification to the council when the commission will start doing that.
The Board of Works could send a letter to the clerk or the president of the council or both.
Well, and the reason why I asked that question, because there was another piece to this, and I was asking about the project labor agreement being attached to this particular public works project. And I'm not talking about the private sector work that's going to be done in the future, but when it was talking about the project labor agreement being added to this particular job, that's why I asked that question. So I'm really still pushing at that button, because I would like to see some language or some commitment to a project labor agreement, because I'm sure none of you are against having jobs local for local people. I'm sure that everybody in here would like to see local jobs, due to the climate of the economy nationally. So that's why I'm pushing at this button still.
Yes, and you can do a local resident worker clause without a PLA.
But I think we'll get more out of PLA than we do a local resident worker clause.
I don't think so.
Okay, so explain, please, why you think...
A project labor agreement would preclude job actions, strikes, work slowdowns, work stoppages, and the union would handle the payroll checking on a periodic basis, so it would take that burden off our inspection staff.
So that would be a negative or a positive?
That's a small administrative burden removed from us, and a small risk of a job action removed from our project. And we use a PLA from time to time, usually on projects of greater complexity with multiple trades. This is a fairly straightforward infrastructure project. So the more open the competition, we can certainly put a specification clause that sets some goals for local resident worker, but that is not necessarily accomplished through a PLA. You can do it in a PLA, you can do it in a specification, as we've done in the past.
And the specification in the past has read what? What was the results of those specification clauses? That's the first time I've ever heard that.
It's the first time we've used it on a recent project in Ignition Park, because it's an important high-profile economic development project. We wanted local participation in it. We wrote a specification clause for 25% local or 20% local resident workers over the whole job. It will be monitored each payroll and transparently reported.
That document question, Mr. Gilat, that document doesn't exempt union participation. Is that correct?
I'm not sure. You mean a PLA?
No. The agreement, the document that you said you would prefer to use over a PLA.
Just our city specification is an open bidding document. All contractors, union, non-union, can bid it.
Right. So it does not exempt the union?
No, I wasn't necessarily speaking wholeheartedly for union participation. But I know when the project labor agreements go in, usually that is in tandem or in concert with local union workers. But my point was getting at making sure that there is local laborers working on this project. And you said that, but we've had instances when we said that this is what we're going to do, and we don't necessarily make those marks, or at the end of the project we actually make the mark. And one of the examples that I would use would be Eddy Street Commons, and we can argue that point, but that was some place that I was able to even go out to and walk the area during construction and notice something opposite of what we said we were doing.
The public infrastructure on that job was a lot of local contract. It was all done by public bidding standards. The private work was not.
It's fine. Thank you, sir.
All right, Mr. Oliver Davis.
I would like to address our attorney with this, following up what Councilman Davis said. Is there any way that specifications can be put into this bill to address what Mr. Gilat has just stated, that about the 25% like he just did with Ignition Park? Could he... Did you hear what I said?
We can make a request with regard to the specification clause if the administration would be willing to add language to that.
Did you hear what I just said?
To what level of local resident worker?
Just what you just did with Ignition Park?
Yes, we can use that clause again.
Use that clause again and to satisfy that issue and put that in this. You're comfortable with that?
Why is it only at 20%?
Well, that was 25, wasn't it?
20.
It was 20? Okay, sorry. 20.
It's 20.
Where did that number come from? 20%. I'm not kicking at it. I'm just asking, where did we come up with 20% at?
I don't know.
You would know.
Any question?
Mr.
It was a judgment call.
It was a judgment call. It wasn't.
Can you clarify this? I thought we're talking about this triangle thing. What's Ignition Park? Where is that?
Well, that was the example that was being used.
He gave us an example that he used a clause when he was doing it with Ignition Park that was suitable to something that Councilman Davis was talking about. And so I asked, can that same clause be used in this triangle? And that's when our attorney said that that is something that can be used with the issue regarding if the administration is in agreement with that. You understand what I'm saying?
Okay, so then explain the difference between what he proposed and what the Ignition Park one is.
There's no difference.
There's no difference. And if I could clarify, the language of that clause says that we desire the highest level of local resident worker participation possible, but not less than 20%. We'd be tickled pink it was 50, 70%. Starts to get anti-competitive and risk a lawsuit if you put the number too high. What we're trying to get is as high as we can.
So what is the threshold? I mean, this is a learning experience for me, so please don't think I'm challenging you, but I'm asking, you chose a number that says 20, and so you came up with 20, and this is what's being placed on paper. Where did you come up with the number of 20, saying that we are remaining competitive and we won't suffer a lawsuit at 20 versus 30 or 40 or 50 or 60?
Yeah, that was my judgment after extensive conversation with the legal staff.
And that's the number they said that would be pretty good versus...
I used their advice.
All right. Any other questions of Ms. White?
Yeah, I just have a couple, Mr. Gillott. During the committee meeting this afternoon, you made mention that there are a couple of property owners that eminent domain will occur. What is the time frame for that? And then also you made mention that looking at the maps, and I would ask that you would make sure that Mr. Harris and others will get copies of the maps if they have not already done so, so that they can see how these streets will actually be developed and the impact that it will have on their businesses. But can you kind of give me a sense of the time frame?
The Board of Public Works process for eminent domain is completed. Okay. That's been appealed to the court. Okay. The legal staff has filed, I'm not sure of the right terms. I think it was called a summary judgment, and I think the judge is pondering that. Okay. So I'm not sure. It's difficult for me to predict when the court will finally render a decision.
Okay, my second question, in terms of waiting to have the legal opinion, what impact would that have on the project? Will you continue to move forward, or will you need to wait until that decision has been reached?
The appeal will render a decision whether we've made appropriate use of the eminent domain statute and can have that land for the purpose of right-of-way for the street and other infrastructure. The appeal process may proceed on over the issue of monetary compensation. The court may appoint different appraisers to question the appraisals we prepared, and then we may either owe the court more money or we may get a refund. But our ability to take the land and proceed with the project will be decided more quickly.
Okay. In terms of maps, if anyone would like to have copies of the maps that you shared with us during the committee meeting, they could contact you?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions, council members, of Mr. Gillott or Mr. Zentira? Mrs. Farron?
I'd like to take leave just to confer with Mr. Gillott.
All right.
Before I read this.
This is action. This is action that we have. This one, both these on this one. And the question is, this one.
All right. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak in favor of Substitute Bill 0711?
Councilmember Rouse, before you go to the public, I can read the language.
Yes, please do. Please do.
I had to read it to him since he couldn't read my handwriting. The city administration, this would be in addition to the language that Mr. Jalot read for section 4. The city administration further agrees to include a specification clause calling for the highest level of local resident workers within St. Joseph County, but not less than 20%.
All right. Any questions, Council, on that?
We do not have any motions on any of that.
Okay. All right. All right. You don't need a motion. We just add it into it?
No, we don't need it.
We do need a motion.
So move. Second.
You've heard the motion and the second to add the language as presented by the council attorney.
Both sections.
As you read, some unreadiness on this end. Some unreadiness. We can't go up 5%.
Councilmember Davis, I was not privy to the discussions that Mr. Jalot had with the legal department. However, they have much more information than I have at this point. I would feel much more confident in the information that they had. I cannot render a decision. I think the 20%.
Right, because we don't get their records based upon their counts and what they do throughout the year. So.
All right.
Okay.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any other unreadiness on the motion? Seeing none, hearing none, all in favor so indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. And that will be read, added to both section 4 and 5 of the substitute bill. Anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor of substitute bill 0711? Anyone present wishing to speak in favor of 0711, substitute bill? Anyone present wishing to speak against substitute bill 0711? Please come to the mic, the podium, and state your name and address.
Murray Miller, 1201 Priscilla Drive, South Bend, Indiana. I'm not speaking in favor or against it. I do have a concern about the percentage of the 20%, and that be through the life of the job rather than assessed at the end, because if you assess it at the end, the local person loses out on the work. And so I just have that concern. And thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Miller.
I'm confused. Help me out. I'm sorry.
Point of order, we don't have discussion
Right.
unless the chair agrees to it.
No, we'll have to discuss that after the public hearing, and in the council portion of the hearing, we will address that issue. Thank you, Mr. Miller. Please come to the podium and state your name and address.
My name is James Harris. I live at 1125 South Bend Avenue, and I'm here to oppose something I don't know nothing about. It's going about, bear with me, I'm a little nervous, but relax. Can anybody tell me how they came about the name Triangle for this development we're talking about? If no one can come up with it, I believe I was the initiation of it. People always spoke to me about that area, and I say it was a triangle. I always take them to the corner of South Bend Avenue and Eddy Street, take them both north on each side all the way down to the woods, and come across, you would form a triangle. From that point on, I kept hearing everybody talk about the triangle. They've had several meetings way back about 10 years ago, and different people spoke with me and asked me about different peoples, and I always arranged to get a group of people to come to the meetings. And the words was put out, anything you want to know about the triangle, ask James Harris. Yes, ask James Harris, because he was told what was happening, how it was happening, what was going on back at that point in time, for me to tell the neighbors that lived in the area. Now, all of a sudden, the big change is coming about. This discussion just talk about $2,000 or something, whatever it's about. I'm very unaware of what they're talking about. talking about Georgiana being closed off, Burn Street being closed off, Dewey being opened up. Those things weren't discussed with me or mentioned to me at any point in time back, other than, no, your property will not be taken from you. You have no worry about this. But property been bought all around me, and I'm saying, well, they're not going to take me out of here. Why buy all the property around me and let me sit here for whatever reasons? Now it's coming to a point whereas you're having quite a few discussions, and now you're looking about monies for that area. I know nothing about all these things. Talking about a map. Where's a map at? You got it up there waving at me. I never seen the map. I mean, I just happened to get a call about this hearing tonight to come down. And right now I'm in the laws. I would appreciate if this thing was continued so I can sit down and talk with somebody about what's going on, council or whatever I need to help me out on this situation.
Hey, Mr. Harris. Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to Bill 0711? Please come and state your name and address.
Carol Davis, 1631 Lincoln Way East here in South Bend. I've got quite a few concerns about that area. Two of the homes should be used as anchors for the rest of the neighborhood, the subdivision that they're proposing. As far as jobs, why not 100% of the jobs offered be to those here in South Bend? It's local money, local jobs, the money stays here.
Thank you, Mrs. Davis. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to 0711? Seeing none, hearing none, we'll now have a rebuttal from the presenter. Time for rebuttal.
With regard to Mr. Miller's concern about needing to compute 20% at each payroll, that isn't the standard that we used. It's over the course of the whole job. The aggregate hours in, dollars in have to be 20% of the job local minimum. There may be times, due to the nature of the trades or subcontractors on the job, where it's 40%, other times where it's 10%, but over the whole job it has to come out to a weighted number of 20% of the total job. So it's not like we just take a snapshot at the end of the job and you can be at 2% for the whole job, but on the last day you make sure you have 20% local, and that would pass. That would not pass. So you follow that you have to meet the test over the aggregate of the whole job. The second issue of not seeing the map, I believe Mr. Harris is active with the neighborhood meetings that have gone on for many years. This plan hasn't changed since early in 2009. It's been at numerous NENC, NNRO meetings, so the map is not a shocking new layout that we just came up with lately. And then the 100% local resident worker, sure, we all feel that way in our heart. I feel that way too. The state statutes say differently. So we're trying to do something that stretches public policy without ending up in court. So it was a judgment with serious involvement of legal counsel to set it at the 20%, not at 100%. We put words in there that our goal is as high as possible, but that keeps us on the right side of the law. That concludes my rebuttal.
Thank you, Mr. Gillott. That concludes the public portion and the rebuttal. Council members, do you have any questions or?
Yes, sir.
In the council portion. Yes, Mr. Davis.
State statute. What is the state statute? And I'm keep coming up to this, because we don't get your numbers, we don't get your equation, we don't get your paperwork, because that is held in administration's level. And so when we get to discussions like this, our information is limited based upon what you're giving us. And so my question earlier was, how do you come up with this number? You say your legal staff came up with it. Now we're using state statute. Neither here nor there, you probably had to use both. My question again is, what's the state statute say? And does it give a certain number, whether it's 5%, 10%, or 1,000%? That was my original question. How do we come up with these numbers?
Okay. The public bidding statutes call for us to have open specifications that promote open competition that we award to the lowest responsive bidder. A lot of people say lowest and best. That's not actually what the statutes say. So it's lowest responsible. Responsible meaning if they were the only bidder and you thought they were incompetent to do it, you would reject them. Okay, so we make a decision they are or aren't a responsible bidder. Responsiveness has to do with whether they had a bid bond, signed their non-collusion affidavit, acknowledged our addenda, filled out the bidding forms properly. If we had a goal for a local resident worker in the specification that required a checklist acknowledgement, that they're aware of that and they're going to comply, and they don't acknowledge it, that would be a non-responsive bid. The statutes in Indiana intend for us to have wide open competition, no restraint of trade. It's kind of a free trade. And we can have a long philosophical discussion on fair trade, free trade, but the intent behind those statutes is not to have a wall go up and parochialism. They would like you to reach out within your region and open it to all bidders, union, non-union, anyone who's competent who could be a responsible and responsive bidder. To the extent that you craft your specifications to be very exclusionary or even proprietary, say only one firm could ever win this bid, you're violating the statutes. We would never go obviously the job that you all expect when you appropriate monies is that the administration through the Board of Public Works will be knowledgeable and experienced in that public bidding law. When there are gray areas or questions, we'll seek counsel from the legal office. They're at every Board of Works meeting, and you're welcome to be at every Board of Works meeting and observe how we do that. But I can assure you that we conscientiously follow the statute and the advice of legal counsel, try to get the best value for the dollar, and get the work done. 20% in this case is not statutory, it's judgment. Okay? The statutes are lowest responsible, responsive bidder, and don't be exclusionary, and don't put up artificial walls, price preferences, quotas, those kinds of things are specifically in the statutes. The exercise of a desire in a specification section to have participation by local resident workers was a judgment call with the legal staff. I think I've beat that point to death.
You have, but again, my question thereafter was, can we push it up based upon the information that you just gave us? I mean, it sounds like you're clear, you have full knowledge of this particular law, obviously because this is what you do on a daily basis. And so that's what I was getting at earlier, because I couldn't understand that you couldn't answer that question, but this is what you do on a regular basis. Again, I'm just really a stickler on what we do here locally with local jobs and local construction contracts. And so that's why I asked, could that be bumped up 5%, 2%, or a half a point because of the necessaries that are going on here. It seems that you guys have already jumped into Ignition Park with the same type of language, and it slows up a lot of different things that we would like to do here locally for local contractors. And that was my point. You brought the Ignition Park into play as your example. So as obviously this is the way you guys work at this. Again, we don't get this information until it's time to vote on it. And so I'm full of questions about how we bid out these jobs and who gets these jobs, because at this point in time, everybody is looking for a job.
We didn't realize that the council was going to direct us how to bid out work until
No, I'm not directing, I'm asking questions.
But, well, you're saying you didn't get information until tonight. We didn't present it till tonight because this is when we heard about it. We felt that 20% was actually pushing the envelope in terms of state law. State law doesn't say anything about language in your bid documents that require local workers. Many of our mayors through the Indiana Association of Cities and Towns have pushed for the authority for municipalities to be able to use a local provider component in bids. And that's across the board. So for instance, City of Goshen wants to buy a police car, and they get bids from multiple vendors. Their local dealer is 3% higher than somebody from Michigan. By state law, if the Michigan dealer is responsive and what's the other term? Responsible, thank you. They can't go to the local dealer, even though he may donate use of vehicles during the year for a variety of different things. So it's an area that we are trying to push the envelope. We feel that the 20% number that we are using is one that will not generate a lawsuit against us and therefore cause additional costs and delay in terms of the projects. But we are trying to make sure that we are incorporating local workers and move forward in a manner that is an area that's gray at this point.
All right, thank you, Mayor Lickey. Mr. Oliver Davis, please.
Mr. Mayor, is it possible, I know some people are going on vacation in the next few days, but is it possible that your administration, people in your administration, can meet with Mr. Harris again?
Sure.
And just clarify, he's such a centerpiece over there, and in talking with him and in sharing what he shared with you tonight, he stated that there was a lot of areas where he was not clear on, or these things were not presented to him.
Sure, absolutely. And we want to make clear that we have left the street open adjacent to his store so that there is access to his store and to parking at his store. It's not continuous through the neighborhood because we don't feel it's good to have a street connecting to State Road 23 that close to the new intersection there. But
if a meeting,
yes, absolutely.
A meeting can take place with you, Mr. Harris, his council person or one of the representatives of at-large, Ms. Pizzello, or one of at-large could be there with him. So our at-large or Ms. Pizzello and you all can come, and that way we can at least be on one accord on those kind of issues within the next 14 days. And we can hear a report back from that at our next council meeting, one of our briefs. Very short.
Yes, certainly.
I appreciate that. Mr. Harris? Thank you.
Thank you. I'll move for a favorable recommendation.
Second.
You've heard the motion and the second.
As amended.
Substitute bill as amended.
Second.
You've heard the motion and the second to send the amended substitute bill.
Can I just add
yes.
one item in light of the question raised by Councilmember Davis and the explanation given by the city administration? Again, the city council, I think, has to have a reasonable and rational basis, which I believe the administration has set forth, because we cannot get into an arbitrary, capricious percentage. And based on the information that they have provided, I think that's what
I'm sorry, I heard just half of that. Arbitrate?
with regard to the percentage that is being recommended by the city administration, there has to be a rational and reasonable basis. I think that has been provided to the city council, because otherwise the court, this is a very litigious area, otherwise the court could have the contention that it may be arbitrary or capricious. I think there is a rational basis for what is being proposed.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
You've heard the parliamentarian. You've heard
the
motion and the second. All in favor? Any other unreadiness? All in favor of the motion, so indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. And substitute bill as amended 0711 goes to third reading for favorable recommendation.
Councilmember Ross, I would like to be a member of the committee that meets with Mr. Harris.
All right. Mrs. White is volunteering to meet with Mr. Harris, as well as Council, 4th District Council Lady Ann Pizzello. All right. Mr. Vorty, will you give 0811, read 0811, Mr. Vorty?
Public hearing on a bill of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, appropriating $219,942 from the General Fund Number 101 in 2011 for the Office of Energy.
Is there a committee report?
Yes, there is. Earlier today, this matter came before the
Personnel and Finance Committee. At that time, the committee voted to send this to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you.
Yes, my name is Greg Zentera, Controller for the City of South Bend. Offices on the 12th floor of this building. The bill 08-11, appropriation of the Common Council from the General Fund number 101 for the Cost of Energy Conservation Initiatives funded by the Federal Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant from the United States Department of Energy. On September 21st, 2009, the City of South Bend was awarded a $1,046,800 Federal Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant from the United States Department of Energy. On October 15th, 2009, the city received its initial installment of grant proceeds in the amount of $250,000, which was budget appropriated in fiscal 2010 and 2011 and has been used over this 2-year period for strategic planning development. The proceeds have been used to hire a municipal energy director and to pay for professional consulting services used to assist in the generation and development of the energy conservation plan. On September 13th, 2010, the city received a second installment of grant funds in the amount of $654,372. Of the total grant proceeds received to date of $904,372, a total of $684,430 have been spent, encumbered, or set aside in the 2011 budget for expenditure. This appropriation The purpose of this appropriation is to appropriate the remaining $219,942,000 in grant funds in the Office of Energy Development in the General Fund for expenditure during 2011 for various energy conservation projects. Mr. Gillott will talk about those energy conservation projects as Council desires. Following approval of this appropriation request, a remaining sum of $142,000 and change will remain as available funds from the original federal grant. It is determined, it is proposed by City Administration that we will come back with an additional appropriation before the end of the year, appropriating the remaining $142,000 of the original $1,046,000 Energy Department grant.
All right, thank you, Mr. Zentera. Anyone have a question of Mr. Zentera before we move to Mr. Gillott? Seeing none, hearing none. Mr. Gillott?
Yes.
State your name and address.
Gary Gillott, Public Works Director, offices on the 13th floor of this building. As Greg mentioned, the City of South Bend received $1,046,800 federal grant, 100% federal funds, no local matching requirement. The first part of the grant was a planning grant to develop a strategy. We completed that and turned it in January of 2011. The DOE let us proceed to the implementation phase, indicating they were okay with our strategy. We did it through a Green Ribbon Commission, broad cross-section of the community providing input. The areas that they thought we should look at, first of all, a energy audit of all the municipal buildings. 30 buildings were audited. Jonathan Burke, our energy director who came on board last fall, prioritized the buildings to go to energy retrofit activities. And I'm going to ask him to step up and talk about the 4 buildings that he focused on as the best opportunity in the Civil City area.
My name is John Burke, Energy Director. In this process of, we went through all these, the building audit results for these 30 buildings, and I tried to narrow down 4 buildings that were good candidates for retrofits. And I'm going to tell you which ones. We're doing lighting upgrades in the Martin Luther King Center, in the auditorium there, the gymnasium. Those lights are quite old, and the new lighting that we'll put in there, it's a different type of light. It'll almost look like daylight in the building. And we'll do that upgrade in lighting for about half the cost of energy that we're spending now in that room. We're going to do the same thing at the Howard Black Rec Center, in the gymnasium there as well. Then we're moving over to the park maintenance building, which has a lot of old lights. They're sodium lights, and they're pretty energy intensive. So we'll change those out with induction lights also. And then Fire Station 6 was our worst energy use fire station in the whole city. It had an energy use index about 3 times the national average. So we did some work and did some analyze that building. So we're doing lighting upgrades in that building, and if the money will go far enough, we'll upgrade some of the heating units in the apparatus bay as well.
Mr. Davis.
Similar to what I had a question this afternoon. Now, when the money is saved again in the fire station or in Martin Luther King Center or in the various buildings that you named, does that savings go within that same budget? Like if the Martin Luther King saves, let's say, $10,000 because of the lighting, does that money then go back into the Martin Luther King budget, the parks budget, or can that be used other places?
I think the controller answered earlier that our strategy there is to have some of the savings accrue to the bottom line of the user department. Some of it would be plowed back into additional energy saving projects, probably also in that project. So if there's savings in the park department building, that would partly go to reducing the bottom line of the budget in the parks department and partly go to more energy conservation efficiency projects in parks. Okay. Same thing for fire department, funded out of general fund. The utilities, as I mentioned earlier, will fend for themselves. They have user fees. We were focusing our help on the public safety and parks departments, which you know are property tax supported. Beyond the building energy retrofits, we're also doing some improvements that help the traveling public. Our traffic intersections, if not properly synchronized, can waste fuel, congestion, excess idling of vehicles. So we're looking to take the top 100 and optimize the synchronization using information from Portland, Oregon, scaled to here. The estimate is that we'd save 1 million gallons of gasoline a year, which at a little over $3.50 a gallon is saving the public $3.5 million a year in wasted fuel idling at intersections that aren't properly timed. So we think the $400,000 federal grant will produce great dividends for the people of South Bend. The last area is renewable energy. The Green Ribbon Commission wanted us to install a pilot scale 45 kilowatt hydro unit. Jonathan came up with the idea to go beyond a little bit of decorative lighting and running the gates on the east race. Instead, he's running a conduit over to Howard Park, to the senior center, and the ice rink to run those. We should get substantial savings for the Parks Department electricity budget. And then the last element is to study the feasibility of a large 1.78 megawatt hydroelectric facility on the dam at Century Center. Again, the turbines would be placed near Sites Park. They would use the water falling 12 feet over the dam through the turbines to produce electricity. That amount of electricity would power the equivalent of 1,500 homes. Because the City of South Bend government doesn't want to become a regulated electric utility, we will find a different way to use that energy in our municipal facilities rather than for resale. That concludes my remarks.
Mr. Cursis?
Mr. Gillette, Gary, did this include the GPS, did you say, on the truck?
Yes, I did skip that one. I'm sorry. There's a route optimization aspect using real-time GPS information to route our solid waste trucks. We think maybe we can save 20% on our wear and tear on our trash trucks and save on our fuel and make sure the trucks are full as they're at the end of the route that's toward the landfill instead of having to backtrack across the route. So using GPS and real-time route optimization software, we think we can improve our efficiency of that service. We'd like to also try it on our sweepers and on our snow plows.
So they'll be able to tactically coordinate plows, or even if a tornado goes through or something,
yes,
where the equipment's going.
We'll know where they're at. Things like applying brine anti-icing, a little bit of it's a good thing, but if you double hit the boundary streets, you can actually make it more slippery. So having the GPS locate on the snow plows, we can make sure we don't have human error and double hit the boundary street.
Mr. Dieter?
During your assessment, if you come up, did you do anything with the, in this building, some offices that the city rents out, did you do anything in?
I've looked around this building quite extensively, and I think there's a lot of opportunity in this building.
Very diplomatic.
The trouble I'm having is it's a county and a city co-owned building, and I'm not sure how to bring together all the.
That one yet?
I'm sorry?
You don't want to venture into that fight yet?
No, I will jump into that. I'm just not sure. I have to identify all the parties and try to build bridges and so forth. And any suggestions you have, I would appreciate.
I'll meet with you. Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Davis?
I would just like to thank the Park Department, more importantly, Phil St. Clair, with the lights over at Martin Luther King Center, and also Charles Black. That has been something that I've been working with them on, asking about that, because last summer we had a terrible time at the Martin Luther King Center with having lights on. Like, one light was on, like literally like one light, you know. And so kids would be out there still trying to play in the dark, and it created a hazard because that, you know, the safety of the kids as well was on the line, so to speak. So just a thank you, and making sure that gets taken care of, because we thought it was going to come through the Parks Department budget, and obviously it's coming through another budget. So I would like to see that money stay there because they have other needs as well, but that's a longer conversation. But again, thank you for getting that done at both centers. It's been a process. Thank you.
All right. Any other council member have a question of the presenters? Seeing none, hearing none. Anyone present wishing to speak in favor of Bill 0811? Anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor of Bill 0811? Seeing none. Anyone present wishing to speak against Bill 0811? Seeing none, hearing none. Council members, is there a motion, please?
Move for favorable recommendation.
Second.
For the motion and the second to send 0811 to full council with a favorable recommendation. All in favor so indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. The motion carries. Mr. Vorty, would you please read Bill 0911?
Public hearing on a bill of the Common Council of the City of South Bend to transfer a portion of Frederickson Park from the Board of Park Commissioners to the State of Indiana.
Thank you. The presenter present, please. Committee report.
The park committee met and sends this bill to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you, Mrs. Pizzello. Presenter present, please.
Certainly. Bill Shalio with the City of South Bend's Department of Community and Economic Development. Here today to ask for your approval of this ordinance. The purpose of the ordinance is to transfer a piece of property that's .086 acres in size, located along South Bend Avenue or State Road 23, to the state of Indiana. As part of the disposition process of park property, the Park Department currently owns this property. The piece of property had to be presented to the Park Board for their disposition. It then comes to you in an ordinance form asking for your approval for disposition. If you approve this tonight, then it would be transferred to the state of Indiana for its use as part of the South Bend Avenue Improvement Project. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Shalio. Anyone from the council? Mr. Davis.
Real quick, with this project going through, being approved, will adversely affect what's going on with the previous bill that we just looked over? 711.
711's the...
is that the one?
The Triangle Housing Project?
Sure.
No, this is absolutely a compliment to what's proposed as part
Well,
of
a
the...
compliment, but we were just talking about with the business owner that was there in the conversation. Would that adversely affect?
The state of Indiana has worked extensively on designs to create access into Mr. Harris's property,
Okay.
so this will be a positive.
Okay.
Anyone else have a question to Mr. Shalio?
Bill, I appreciate if you'd mentioned that the residual land will come back to the city.
Yes, it's our understanding, as we work with the state, whatever land is left along the Frederickson Park frontage will revert back to the city of South Bend in an improved format with greenway and bike trail or pedestrian trail.
Anyone else? Council members? Thank you, Mr. Shalio. Anyone from the public present wishing to speak in favor of Bill 0911? Anyone wishing to speak in favor of 0911? Seeing none, hearing none, is anyone present wishing to speak against 0911? Seeing none, council members, is there a motion, please?
Move for favorable recommendation. Second.
You've heard the motion and the second to send 0911 to full council favorably. All in favor so indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it and the motion carries. Move for permission to rise from
So
the committee
moved.
of the whole.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Yeah. That was good. That was good discussion.
council is now in session. Mr. Vorty, third on 711, please.
Third reading on a bill of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, appropriating the sum of $2 million from Major Moves Fund number 412 and the sum of $400,000 from Sewage Works Capital Fund number 642 for total appropriation of $2,400,000 for the purpose of infrastructure construction at the Triangle Property Project site.
A motion here, the amended.
To amend as was in the committee.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those in opposition? I may have a motion.
Motion to pass 711 is amended.
Second. Mr. Vorty.
Mr. Henry Davis.
Aye.
Mr. LaFountain.
Aye.
Mrs. Puzzello.
Aye.
Dr. Varner.
Aye.
Vice President Oliver Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Curson.
Aye.
Councilmember Rouse.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
President Dean.
Aye.
9 ayes.
811, Mr. Vorty.
Third reading on a bill of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, appropriating $219,942 from the General Fund number 101 in 2011 for the Office of Energy.
Move that 811 be passed.
Second.
Roll, Mr. Vorty.
Mr. LaFountain.
Aye.
Mrs. Puzzello.
Aye.
Dr. Varner.
Aye.
Vice President Oliver Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Cursitz.
Aye.
Councilmember Rouse.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Mr. Henry Davis.
Aye.
President
Aye.
Dieter. 9 ayes.
911, please.
Third reading on a bill of the Common Council of the City of South Bend to transfer a portion of Frederickson Park from the Board of Park Commissioners to the state of Indiana.
Move for the passage of Bill 09-11.
Second.
Clerk Vorty.
Mrs. Puzzello.
Aye.
Dr. Varner.
Aye.
Vice President Oliver Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Cursitz.
Aye.
Councilmember Rouse.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Mr. Henry Davis.
Aye.
Mr. LaFountain.
Aye.
President Dean.
Aye.
9 ayes.
Proceed to Resolution 1119, please.
A resolution of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, approving a petition of the Area Board of Zoning Appeals for the property located at 501 West South Street, South Bend, Indiana.
May we have a committee report?
Yes, you can, Mr. President. The Zoning and Annexation Committee met this afternoon and sends Bill 1119 to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Lyons.
Mark Lyons with the Bill Department Office at 125 South Lafayette Street. This was given public hearing at the March 2nd, 2011 meeting of the Area Board of Zoning Appeals. It is a special exception request to expand the Kovaleski Stadium. Kovaleski Stadium was originally approved as a permitted use under the old ordinance. The zoning ordinance has since changed. It is now only permitted as a special use. I come to you with unanimous favorable recommendation. Be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. David Rafinsky with Whiteman Petrie. Our offices are at 412 South Lafayette Boulevard here in South Bend. I'm here tonight representing the petitioners, the South Bend Parks Department and the Redevelopment Commission of South Bend. We're here seeking approval on a special exception for the use of stadium within the Cove Park area. The existing zoning that was adopted in 2004 did not allow for stadium use under those current zoning ordinances. So in order to complete some of the work that's going on out there, we need to kind of clean up some of the zoning issues and seek the special exception. Be happy to answer any questions anybody may have.
All right, thank you, sir. Does that conclude the presentation? Anyone like to speak in favor of 1119 and or opposition? Council, do you have any questions or recommendations?
Move for the adoption of Bill 1119.
Second.
Vorty. Dr. Varner.
Aye.
Vice President Oliver Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Cursitz.
Aye.
Councilmember Rouse.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Mr. Henry Davis.
Aye.
Mr. LaFountain.
Aye.
Mrs. Puzzello.
Aye.
President Dieter.
Aye.
9 ayes.
1120, please.
A resolution of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, approving a petition of the Area Board of Zoning Appeals for the property located at 2222 West Washington, South Bend, Indiana.
Is there a committee report where pros and cons were discussed on this, Mr. Kursitz?
Yes, Mr. President. The Zoning and Annexation Committee met this afternoon and discussed the pros and cons of Bill 1120 and sends it to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
Mark Lyons, Building Department, 125 South Lafayette Street. This was given public hearing at the March 2nd, 2011 meeting of the Area Board of Zoning Appeals. It is a special exception request for an indoor recreational soccer facility. It is an old industrial building that the proposed owner is trying to put back into use. It comes to you again with a unanimous favorable recommendation. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, thank you, sir. And a petitioner.
Thank you. It's Attorney Mike Lipsky, 115 South Lafayette. I represent the petitioners and their request for a special use, allowing this area to be used for an indoor soccer facility, a recreational area. It's currently zoned as a light industrial, and they're going to use it more of a commercial manner. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you folks may have.
All right, thank you, sir. Anyone like to speak in favor of 1120? Opposition? Council?
Move for the adoption of Bill 1120.
Second.
Mr. Vorty?
Vice President Oliver Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Kursitz.
Aye.
Councilmember Rouse.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Mr. Henry Davis.
Aye.
Mr. LaFountain.
Aye.
Mrs. Pizzello.
Aye.
Dr. Varner.
Aye.
President Dieter.
Aye.
9 ayes.
1121.
A resolution of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, approving a petition of the Area Board of Zoning Appeals for the property located at 909 West Colfax Avenue.
Committee report.
Yes, Mr. President. The Zoning and Annexation Committee met this afternoon and sends Bill number 1121 to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
Mark Lyons.
Mark Lyons, Building Department, 125 South Lafayette Street. This was given public hearing at the March 2nd, 2011 meeting of the Area Board of Zoning Appeals. It is a special exceptional request to use a single-family home as a duplex. This property had historically been used as a triplex throughout its construction to present. They attempted to remodel it as a triplex, improve legal nonconforming use on the property. As that investigation took place, it became apparent that it was not consistently used in that manner, and we could not give it grandfathering. Therefore, the petitioners decided to try to remodel it into a duplex to put the building back into use. It comes to you with a unanimous favorable recommendation.
Thank you, sir. Presenter.
Marco Mariani, Executive Director, South Bend Heritage Foundation, with offices at 803 Lincoln Way West. I would just add that this is a long-standing deteriorated property in the near West Side neighborhood where we've traditionally focused our efforts. It's a property that's been challenged. It's a large house. We're eager to move forward on it. It'll be critical to continuing the stabilization of that neighborhood and that particular block, where we've continued to see private investment. We feel that this will continue to leverage the private marketplace, and we're looking forward to beginning work as soon as possible. I'll also note that earlier today, for the record, the adjacent property owners submitted letters or emails of support, as they have for previous public meetings. Thank you.
Sir. Anyone like to speak in favor of 1121?
I would. I live in that neighborhood a third of my life, and I think you're doing a great job over there, Marco, especially with the house on LaSalle and Martin Luther King Drive. That's coming along real nice, and appreciate what you're doing over there.
Anybody else? How about an opposition to 1121? Seeing none, may I have a recommendation?
Move for the adoption of a resolution 11-21.
Second.
Mr. Vorty. Mr. Kursitz.
Aye.
Councilmember Rouse.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Mr. Henry Davis.
Aye.
Mr. LaFountain.
Aye.
Mrs. Pizzello.
Aye.
Dr. Varner.
Aye.
Vice President Oliver Davis.
Aye.
President Dieter.
Aye.
9 ayes.
1122, please.
A resolution of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, approving a petition of the Area Board of Zoning Appeals for property located at 3300 Sample Street.
Mark Lyons. But
Excuse me.
Mr. Kursitz goes first.
Yes. After seeing Mark Lyons come before us for the fourth time in a row, the Zoning and Annexation Committee decided to send Bill number 1122 to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
Mark Lyons, Building Department, 125 South Lafayette Street. This was given public hearing at the March 2nd, 2011 meeting of the Area Board of Zoning Appeals. It is a special exception request to allow a recreational use for a BMX skateboard training facility. It is an old industrial building that they will be remodeling for that use. It comes a unanimous favorable recommendation. There was no one to speak in opposition at the public hearing.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Fair.
Hi, Paul Fair with Holiday Properties with offices at 227 South Main Street. As Mark said, this is 3300 Sample Street, which is the same building where South Bend Chocolate has their factory. It is in the rear of the building and faces the railroad tracks. It will be a training facility for Brett Benasewicz, who is now a professional BMX rider and a very, very good one at that. This will allow him to continue his education at Washington High School, and he is very happy to be staying in the community rather than having to travel when he is not off at different tournaments and things. Aside from using it as a training facility, they will be opening it up to members of the public for a small fee for use. The facility just works well. It's an old industrial facility, again, as Mark said, has very tall ceiling heights, and it's a wide open space, so it lays out ideally for this type of use. Brett's father, Bill, is here if you have any questions, or I would be happy to answer any questions on the property.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone like to speak in favor of 1122?
Again, I would just be glad. Glad that they're coming here to the 6th District. So we're thankful.
Well, I would also like to speak in favor of it because I know the young man, and you raised a very, very nice son, and I appreciate everything that he has done, and he has brought a lot of notoriety to the South Bend area for everything he's done.
Yes.
And I can't wait till John Vorty's up there doing those backflips with the cape. That'll be very interesting to see.
I don't know if that's covered in the health plan.
Anyone on opposition? 11, yes, sir.
I think the parents want, did you want to say something? I saw your
No, I
open
don't
hand.
think he wants to.
Oh, okay.
All right, and anyone in opposition? Seeing none, council, recommendation, please.
Move for the adoption of bill number 1122.
Second.
Mr. Vorty.
Councilmember Rouse.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Mr. Henry Davis.
Aye.
Mr. LaFount.
Aye.
Mrs. Pizzello.
Aye.
Dr. Varner.
Aye.
Vice President Oliver Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Cursett.
Aye.
President Dieter.
Aye.
9 ayes.
Congratulations.
Mr. Dieter, I think it'd be great too, as soon as we can, to take a tour of the place. It's a wonderful place
I'd
too.
like to see you guys on bikes, sir. I appreciate
Thank you.
it.
All right.
Thank you. Mr. Vorty, let's proceed to first reading on 1111.
First reading on a bill of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, amending Section 2-59 of the South Bend Municipal Code, addressing the South Bend Advisory Commission on black males.
Move that 1111 be sent to Community Economic Development Committee and have second reading, public hearing, and third reading on April the 11th.
Second.
The motion is second. All in favor? Aye. Those in opposition, Mr. Vorty, 1211.
First reading on a bill of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, amending annexation ordinance number 9565-05 to specifically include a landowner in German Township, namely Fiskars Properties, Inc., whose property was described in ordinance 9565-05, but who was not named therein.
Move that Bill 1211 go to the Zoning and Annexation Committee and set for second reading, public hearing, and third reading on April 11th.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition there? Mr. Vorty, 1311.
First reading on a bill amending the zoning ordinance for property located in the 400 block of North Notre Dame Avenue, South Bend, Indiana, 46617, Councilmanic District 4 in the city of South Bend, Indiana.
1311 to Area Plan Commission.
Second.
Okay, motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition to that? Seeing none. Unfinished business. We have a motion for Bill 1123.
Move that 1123 be set for second reading, public hearing, and third reading on April 11th and sent to the Zoning and Annexation Committee.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Any new business before this council?
Yes, Mr. President. I'd just like again to thank Ms. Karen White and the Public Safety Committee for having their last meeting this past Wednesday, especially to talk about the topic of graffiti. As I've gone around this past week with my neighbors, there's been more and more graffiti that I've seen coming out in the springtime, and I look forward to update this coming Wednesday, well, the Wednesday after next Wednesday, to hear the report from the city regarding our cleanup plan to deal with that. That would be April the 6th, 3:30. So I thank you for taking that on.
I would like to add, if I might, that part of the committee's discussion were to really look at graffiti from a citywide perspective, and that we know that there are certain districts that are disproportionately tagged than others. We've asked the administration to not only come up with a comprehensive, sustainable plan, but also timelines in terms of action plan from the administration in terms of how they're going to address graffiti now and how that they will be able to sustain that. Our goal is that we will receive a plan from the administration and that we will begin to address the graffiti in this community. I would like to thank every member of the Health and Public Safety Committee, and would also like to invite the public to come out because we would like to hear from you as well. But it was a very good meeting, and I thank everyone for their level of participation.
Okay, thank you. Any other new business?
Yes. This is a question to Council Attorney, or Council Attorney. Could there be any possible way that we can get some information to, or a letter to code enforcement about their presentation on next council meeting, about a contingency plan on what they do or what they plan to do after a house is slated for demolition and after the house is demolished? We're having a lot of conversation in the neighborhoods about demolishing houses because that seems to be the answer to all of our problems now. Demolish the house, put it on demolition list, you know, and so I don't necessarily think that that is always the best answer because that takes away and is tearing away from the character of the neighborhood and is destroying our tax base. Thank you so much. So she's prepared when she comes, so we won't have to wait another month or something.
Okay, privilege of the floor. Anyone who wants to speak to this council this time about something that's not been on the agenda or spoken previously herein, you may step to the microphone. I need your name, address. You have 3 minutes, and that will be timed by Councilmember Kersitz.
Carol Davis, 1631 Lincoln Way East here in South Bend. I've been hearing about the North Side River Walk and the South Side Roundabout. And this concerns me. I've heard the council crying about not having enough tax dollars. Well, you take all this property, you're taking private homes, and then on the south side too, you're looking to run business out of here. This makes the community look very business unfriendly. You know, we're losing a lot of business now. We don't need to lose any more. Homes, we don't need to lose homes. And Henry Davis mentioned tax homes. We've looked at tax homes on this year's, and homes that are listed on the tax sale have already been torn down. Explain why.
All right, thank you. Anyone else wants to speak to this council this time? Seeing none, we're adjourned.
Never do it, Mr.